Well, welcome, good evening, and wonderful dice, all alignments. I am Lunar D8, and this is part 2 of Chaos Demons, the supplement book to Warhammer for 40,000. Today we're talking about Khorne, the Blood God, or the really good band, depending on how you want to look at it, or listen to it. It's a good band, go check it out. Jonathan Davis also does a lot of collaboration stuff with like the Skrillex and Infected Mushroom. But yeah, Khorne, the Blood God. Khorne is the Lord of Rage, taker of skulls. I guess he's John Wick. He is Wrath incarnate, the embodiment. I know they're making like a Predator versus Terminator movie. How about a John Wick versus Predator movie? Or a John Wick versus Terminator movie? How about that? We have a premise of any of the Terminator movies, or even the original one, but it's not John Connor. They're sending Terminators back in time to get John Wick. I think it's good. Taker of Skulls. He's Wrath incarnate, the embodiment of a never-ending compulsion to dominate and destroy. It is his sole desire to drown the galaxy in a tide of slaughter, to conquer and to kill every living thing until there is nothing left but spilt blood and shattered bone. The Blood God is commonly depicted as a broad and muscular humanoid, hundreds of feet tall. He has the face of a savage, snarling dog, though his twisted features are all but hidden by a Baroque helm decorated with the skulls of conqueror kings. Khorne's exaggerated physique is further distorted by heavy overlapping plates of armor, fashioned from brass and blackened iron. His every word is a growl of endless fury, and his roars of bloodlust echo across his realm. Khorne broods from a throne of carved brass atop a mountain of skulls. The macabre trophies are the fleshless heads of his champions, stacked alongside those of their defeated opponents. Every species that has ever and will ever exist is represented, from the human heads beyond counting to tyrannid skulls the size of half blocks. The ever-growing pile of blood-stained bone reflects the material victories of his followers, feeding Khorne's glory, but never quenching his thirst for blood and death. At Khorne's side rests a great two-handed sword, a legendary blade capable of laying waste to the substance of worlds with a single blow. This fell weapon is known by various names to the races of the galaxy, including Woebringer, Warmaker, and the End of all things. It is said when Khorne takes up his sword, a single sweep can cut through reality itself, allowing Khorne's demonic legions to spill forth. The Blood Tide. That which Khorne demands is simple. Blood, and more blood. His only temple is the battle. His sole sacrament, the blood of nations. Consciously or not, all warrior cultures pay Khorne homage with their acts of murder and destruction. From the head-hunting tribes of backwater feral worlds to the planet-conquering war bands of his favored space marine trader legion, the World Eaters, every single life taken in anger increases the Blood God's power. He looks well upon those warriors who slay their allies, for they prove their understanding of the greater truth. Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows, only that it flows. Those devotees who let a day pass without committing an act of bloody-handed slaughter inevitably incur the Blood God's displeasure. The fortress of Khorne. The dominion of Khorne is a monument to fury and violence. It is built upon the foundations of murder and conflict, and is home to every facet of battle. This blood-soaked realm echoes constantly with Khorne's bellows and clash of weapons, the crackling of whips and the clarion calls of innumerable brass war horns. At its center, Khorne's cavernous chamber is lit by a great fire pit, where dark flames consume the souls of cowards who were cut down as they fled from battle. This haze-filled throne room sits in the foremost keep of the brass citadel, the castle of Khorne, decorated with red-veined marble. The metal walls of the unholy fortress are broken by jagged outcrops, encrusted with blood and armored with serrated spurs of blood-stained brass. Outside, hideous gargoyles leer from every parapet, ready to spew scalding streams of fiery metal upon those foolish enough to besiege the fortress. The formidable moat of brass citadel is not filled with water, but with the boiling blood of those who have lost their lives to war. Beyond the moat lies league upon league of cracked land, littered with the splintered bones of those fallen in battle. Packs of slavering flesh-hounds prowl these wastes for intruders, skirting along the edges of the seas of blood, roving through the mazes of bone and tracking down any interlopers. This blasted wasteland is split by a great crevasse, a canyon many miles long and unfathomably deep. It is said that in one of Khorne's particularly vehement rages, he took up his immense sword and smote the ground, splitting it asunder for eternity. Occasionally the canyon of death erupts with a tide of hot blood. The flood of gore spills out over the plains and sweeps away the heaps of headless corpses and mountains of skeletal remains, surging forth as if the universe itself is bleeding from some hideous wound. A chain of immense volcanoes, constantly smoldering, girdles the blood god's domain. Khorne's roar of rage causes the ground to shudder, and each day the volcanoes spew out rivers of earth blood as hot as his anger. They hurl burning brass skulls onto the lands of the weak, and disgorge murderous packs of bloodthirsters that swoop down when the battles blow. On the inward slopes of these jagged, fire-tipped peaks sprawl the foundries of Khorne. It is said that within these dire forges labor the souls of warriors who died in their sleep, forever doomed to serve Khorne as slaves. Great smokestacks billow forth clouds of woody vapor that mix with the fumes of volcanoes to choke the blood-red skies of the industry of war. These grim edifices keep Khorne's armories filled, his numberless warriors, armed and armored by ceaseless toil. Amongst the rage factories can be found the enormous pens of the juggernauts. Behind buckled and cracked walls, thicker than any mortal fortification, the juggernauts of Khorne are corralled. The titanic demon beasts constantly fight amongst themselves, butting heads and goring each other to establish dominance. Legends tell of demons and even mortal champions of Khorne who have dared the wrath of the juggernauts to take a mount for themselves. The smashed remains of these warriors are left smeared all over the walls. Only a few of the bravest and strongest succeed in riding from the great gates atop one of these murderous beasts. On the outward slopes of the volcanoes are immense parapets and bastions, carved from black granite. These tower miles into the sky, a daunting defense against any unwise enough to assail the kingdom of the blood god. Great infernal cannons and skull-clad altars await Khorne's command to unleash the fires of battle on the domain of the other gods. Mighty fortresses punctuate the brass battlements, each garrisoned with Khorne's bloodthirsty legions. With a single growl from Khorne, these armies swell forth across the domains of the other gods, to bring slaughter and battle at Khorne's urging. The endless tide of soldiers are whipped into a frenzy, and will ever fall upon each other in their uncontrollable desire to spill blood, if no other foe can be found. War, constant, mindless, bloodletting, and destruction is all Khorne cares for. He is almost heedless of who is victorious, and is far more intent that the combatants fight till they can fight no more. All that Khorne exists for, all that his entire being is bent towards, is the flow of blood from fresh wounds and the taking of skulls. War without end. It is no accident that war is spread from one side of the galaxy to the other. For over the aeons, Khorne has ensured that genocidal fury has coursed through every race across the stars. Neither reality nor unreality have ever truly been peace, and Khorne has grown powerful indeed as a result. Uncounted worlds resound with the clamor of battle. Every death rattle is small devotion to his glory. With each new day, ichor mingles with blood on a million battlefronts, every massacre setting fresh meat upon the Lord of Battle's table. Eldarian, human, demon, and orc, Tyranid and Tal, all are gore-splattered marionettes, dancing for Khorne's personal gratification. None embody this unsettling truth more than the hordes of greenskins that fight within the sight of the fortress of Khorne. The original orc invaders from which they are descended, attracted the gaze of the blood god, and they plunged headlong into the Eye of Terror in search of fresh butchery. Their dangerously unhinged warlord, the self-styled Demon Killer, had already made his mark upon the Eye by massacring the demonic and mortal populations of several half-real planets devoted to Khorne's rivals. The Orc warlord proved unstoppable until his Waaagh crash-landed on a flesh planet belonging to a powerful demon prince high in the standing of Khorne. The war boss's vast horde was eventually slain to an orc by the wrathful demon prince and his cohort, but his abject joy in the murderous spectre was such that Khorne himself ensured the green-skinned crusade rose once more the very next dawn. History repeated itself over and over again as the orcs fought tooth and nail, never once showing signs of surrender or despair. The Blood God was so impressed by their limitless battle lust that he took the orcs into his own domain. In the shadow of the Brass Citadel, his elite bloodletter generals battle against the Demon Killer's undying horde on a daily basis. With every clash, great clouds of fungal spores are released by the dying greenskins to take root and flourish in the blood-stained foothills of the Oseus Peaks. There, yet more orcs are born, grown to maturity, and charged into battle with the greatest champions of Khorne. Such endless cycles of uninhibited bloodshed are the most pleasing to the Blood God, for after all, the one true constant in the galaxy is war. Khorne himself has made sure of that. The Blood Legions. Of all the Chaos God's armies, it is the Blood Legions of Khorne that are the most martial. Though they are savage and unrestrained creatures, demons of the Blood God occupy a strict hierarchical structure based on sheer might. Khorne's belief that the strongest of his followers should dominate has proven to be a simple but highly efficient organizational methodology. The legions of the Blood God have carved out the largest of all the domains in the immaterial. Through incessant war in the brutal press and melee on the battlefield, Khorne's forces are unmatched by those of any other god, and the strength and ferocity each of his demons exhibited there decides where they rank in his armies. Highest in order are the Bloodthirsters, clad in baroque armor, wielding fearsome brass axes and whips. Each is a demigod of war. Were they simply warriors and nothing more, Khorne's greater demons would be terrifying enough. His foes are not so fortunate, however, for the Bloodthirsters are tasked with leading the Lord of the Skull Blood Legions on the battlefield. There they bark guttural orders to the ranks of lesser demons around them, and assert their dominance and dedication to Khorne by defeating the mightiest of the enemy's combatants. Figures of awe amongst the servants of the Blood God, they often attract the entourage of the demonic champions that follow them in the glorious battle. Each Blood Legion is divided into 8 cohorts, which are individually comprised of 8 packs of Khornes led by Herald or Demon Prince. The exact competition of these cohorts, the auxiliary formations, and creatures that may fight alongside them will often depend on the type of Blood Legion they belong to. For instance, the heart of the Red Tide Legion is made of bloodletter cohorts that overrun the foe with waves of infantry attacks. Such is the scale of death around them, but they will often be followed by packs of carrion, feeding furies. In contrast, the Hellfire Legions are siege specialists that prefer to engage the foe at range and go to war in the shadows of the Skull Cannons, Soul Grinders, and in the greatest of conflicts, the massive demon engines, known as the Lord of Skulls. The Brazen Thunder Legions are the most mobile of Khorne's armies. The grounds shake beneath their blood throes and the blood crushers they lead, while flesh hound packs chase down any attempt to flee. Exactly how many types of Blood Legion exists is known only to Khorne himself. The sacred number 8. Why Khorne is connected to the number 8 is unknown. but it has been so since the warp first echoed to his fury. His affinity for the figure, and any of its mortals, is strongly reflected in the organization of his legions, from the number of bloodthirster things to the number of cohorts in the full strength legion. It is a number that also appears throughout the blood god's domain in the immaterial, as 8 enormous towers ring the brass citadel. The demons slain in real space must complete 8 tasks before Khorne will once again give them shape. In the most sprawling of battles within the warp, it is always Khorne's 8th wave that is most powerful. Even as mortal worshippers recognize and revere the sacred number, using it in their blood-soaked summoning rituals and carving it upon their flesh in gruesome ceremonies. The seers of many races have foretold that only after 8 ages of war have passed will Khorne's bloodthirst finally be slaked by a last apocalyptic battle. Kul Zahar's Doom Court. Kul Zahar is a bloodthirster of unfettered frenzy, one of the 8 bloodthirsters who serve Akan, who himself is a 8th bloodthirster behind Galkra and the infamous. Gulskar led one of the many legions that took part in the Blood Crusade during the War of the Attilia system, took personal command of the Ugroth of the undefeated Korhut. The feared Doom Court below can be seen as the composition of the Doom Court as it is entered upon the battle of the fortress of the world of Alexandria. And now I will read the names that I can't pronounce. Kulzar's at the top, so let's look at general. And you have Umgroth the undefeated behind, and you have Boar Blades or Bloodletters, Black Skulls, Bloodletters, everyone's Bloodletters, I guess. Alzark's Slaughter Pack, Dazar's Red Fury, the Horned Ones, and the Hunters of Blood, Brass Thunder, the Black Calls. Cohorts. At full strength, each Blood Legion is typically formed of 8 cohorts, and each cohort is composed of 8 packs of demons. These formations can vary for many reasons, although most commonly it is through the addition of the auxiliaries or influx or decrease of the energies upon the battlefield. It is also not unusual amongst the members of the cohort to subjugate the demon packs of another such formation, bringing them to their side by force during the savage and sometimes ritualized infighting. And we'll go and call that a part. Next time, we will talk about Tzenitek, the chaos god of change, or fate, or destiny, or black mages from Final Fantasy I. Okay, hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.